I'm Wertz with Flower Duet, and I'm going to go over 10 top tips for success in floral design. You can do this. Tip number 1, make sure you're using sharp floral cutters that you only use for flower arranging. Tip 2, when you're cutting your flowers, you want to hold the flower way away from where you're going to be cutting the stem. So if you're going to be cutting the stem down here, you don't want to hold the flower really close to where your cutters are. You might cut yourself. So we always tell our students to hold your flower up near the head and then cut far away. Tip number 3, when you're working with flowers like roses, sometimes there's thorns in 3 places. There's thorns along the stem, sometimes behind the leaves, and then also sometimes right up here near the neck. So you want to be really careful when you're handling roses. A lot of times you say, maybe grasp them by the head until you can see where all the thorns are. To remove the thorns, you just take your cutters and you just snip off the pointy bits of the thorns so that they're not going to hurt anybody. If they go and you hand them the rose, they're not going to get hurt. Tip number 4, it's important when you're working with flowers that have a lot of greenery on the stem that when you place them into the vase, none of this greenery is going to be in that water. So you don't want leaves on the stem underneath the water line of a vase, because they'll break down, then they'll clog the water, and then the stems won't be able to drink the water. Tip number 5, always use flower food when you're working with flowers. This will help them last a long time. It helps the water soften a little so the flowers can drink up better, and it cuts down on any of that green stuff growing in the water. On the back of the floral food packet, it tells you how much water to use for the packet. So in this case, it says 1 pint. And I know that this pint mason jar holds exactly 1 pint of water. So I would take my flower food, mix it in the mason jar, shake it up. Now I can pour the water with the flower food into my vase. So you want to mix it up first, then put it into your vase. Tip number 6 has to do with how much water do you use in a vase. Most flowers like to have their stems drinking lots of water. They'll drink through the sides of the stems too. So a good rule of thumb is to do about 2/3 to 3/4 of the vase full of water. And you want to make sure that you're checking it every day if you can't see the clear of the vase, and keep filling it with water. Remember the flower food. So if you've mixed up a bunch in a mason jar, you can just keep using what's left in the mason jar to fill up your vase each day. Tip number 7. When you're cutting your flowers to put them in a vase or in any kind of floral design, you want to make sure that you cut the stems at an angle. And that's so they don't sit flat on the bottom of the vase. So if I were to cut this peony stem, I'm going to cut it at an angle and place it into the vase. So now it's standing on its tippy toes, and I know it'll be able to drink the water. Tip number 8 has to do with how quickly you get your stems into your vase after you've cut them. So you've determined how tall you want your stem to be in the vase by maybe measuring it up against the side of the vase. You've taken off all those leaves that are going to be below the water line. So you hold it away from where you're going to cut it. You give it a cut and you place it in your vase. So I've cut and placed within about 2 seconds, cutting and placing. You want to make sure that every time you put your flowers into the vase, you cut and you place inside the water within 10 seconds. That's because stems will seal up before that. And if they've sealed up, they can't drink the water in the vase, and they'll die before they really need to die. So you want to make sure that you do that very quickly. Cut, place for each flower. So now if I'm going to add this spray rose, making sure my greenery is off, giving it a cut, measuring where I want it to be, giving it a cut, and placing it right away. Tip number 9 is how to soak floral foam. It's probably one of the most requested questions we have in our classes, and it's really pretty simple. You want to have a container that can hold the brick of floral foam. You want to make sure that it's filled with water and you have your flower food mixed in. Make sure you know how much water you've put in there so you have the right amount of flower food mixed in. So it's important to put the flower food into the water first and mix it up. Then you have your brick of floral foam. And there's some safety precautions for floral foam. Basically, don't want to reuse it. When you're not using it, you want to make sure it's in a plastic container. If it's stored dry, you want to keep it out of the sunlight, it'll last longer. And you want to keep all the dust away from, you don't want to breathe in the dust. So it's a good thing to use it when it's wet. So there's writing on this. This is Oasis brand floral foam. You want to make sure the writing is up because it soaks from the bottom to the top. So the writing is up. You're going to hold it over whatever container you're using to soak, and you're just going to drop it in. And you're not going to push. If you push down on it, you risk getting some dry air pockets inside the floral foam. Basically, this acts like a sponge. And what it's doing is it's drinking up water, and it's going to retain the water inside. Then after you've soaked it, you can put it out on a tray, and you can cut it into the pieces that you need. If you're doing a different size or shape floral foam, it's the same idea. You have a container, you fill it with water, and then you drop the foam in. Don't push it, just let it happen. It takes a little less than 1 minute to soak one whole brick of floral foam. And it's almost done. And I can show you how you know when it's done. You know when it's done when everything is the dark green, it's all wet. And what it'll do is it won't sink, it'll float to the top, but it will all be completely soaked. It's like watching paint dry. So there we go, it's almost done. Now it's done. So now it's completely soaked, and you can see it's floating in the container, and the entire thing is now dark green. So now I'll just leave it in there, and it's ready for my next floral arrangement. Tip 10 has to do with floral tape. There's all kinds of floral tape that we use in the flower industry, and it's really important that you know the difference. The most important thing to know is that Scotch tape is great for wrapping boxes with wrapping paper, but it's not really great for many other uses in the floral industry. So you're not really going to use this very much unless you're wrapping presents. There's a type of tape called stem wrap, and it's green and it's dry feeling, and that you activate it by stretching. And it's very important when you use it that you keep it in a Ziploc bag because it can dry out. So it is dry, but you want to keep it sort of moist. So floral tape, it's also called stem wrap. There's also a couple kinds of waterproof floral tape, and it's called waterproof tape. Comes in green, white, and clear. And this is the kind of tape that you use when you're building a grid on a vase, or you're securing chicken wire to a vase so that it doesn't come off. And some people use it also to secure foam to plates and design vases also. So this is the floral tape you use to do that, not Scotch tape. And these are all made by Oasis, but there are other floral companies, floral supply companies that make the waterproof tape. There's another product out there called Bind It tape, and it is fairly new in the market. It's been the last 10 years at least, and it kind of stretches and it's kind of rubbery, and what it does is it seals in moisture too. And the thing that's cool about it is it can go underwater and it won't come apart. So it's another type of waterproof tape, but it only sticks to itself. So it's more like a stem wrap as opposed to something that can stick to a container. So these two, the Bind It tape and the stem wrap, are for stems of flowers. And these, the white, the green, and the clear, are all for vases and containers. And they come in different widths, like 1/4 or 1/2. So there you go. Some tips from Flower Duet, so you're all set to do your floral designs.